Guess what time it is? It's story time. So before I get into the actual story, I just need to tell you, if you're real sensitive, maybe just keep scrolling. We'll leave it at that. So this story takes place when I was in the 7th grade. And for whatever reason, for this one class, they mixed the 7th graders with the 8th graders. There was this one 8th grader in particular who was kind of a fuckboy. Like, he was known for fucking with a bunch of girls. And something I should mention is that he had a mild case of Tourette's. So one of his tics was that he would always be blinking a lot all the time. So he was in my class and I saw him and I asked the girl who was sitting next to me, I'm like, hey, is that so-and-so? This girl, y'all. She said, yeah, he always be winking at me.
Story time. When I was like 6 or 7 years old, I was really thick with 3 C's.
I mean, if I was a fruit, I was a grape. If I was a shape, I was a circle. You see this right here? This.
So it was a time when girls began to like question their like bodies and stuff like that.
All of my friends aren't fat, so why am I fat? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get on a diet. So for that whole day, I only ate carrots.
But then I was so confused. Why am I still fat? I only ate carrots all day.
Oh no, God, am I pregnant?
My mom had a pregnancy test in her bathroom.
So guess what I did?
Struggled to open that pregnancy test up. I was so scared for my life. I knew for sure I was pregnant because there was no other way that I could be fat and not be pregnant. I took the pregnancy test and waited. To my relief, it said negative. I went to my mom, cried because I was like, Mom, I think I'm pregnant, but I think this pregnancy test doesn't work. I'm so fat, I must be pregnant. She's like, nah, you ain't pregnant. You just eat too much.
Story time. Okay, so before I start, I just want to say I graduated high school like 6 months ago, and this happened my summer going into freshman year, so a while ago. But at the same time, not that long ago. So there was this boy that I was really, really into. Like, I thought we would be husband and wife one day. Like, that's how much I liked this boy. We had a couple of classes together the previous year, but we didn't really talk in those classes, and he didn't really know who I was, so... And sorry, I'm laughing because I'm getting, like, secondhand embarrassment from this. But for whatever reason, I had his number, probably from, like, a group chat or a group project that we had at some point during the year. And being the little flirty pants that I am and wanting him to like me so bad, I would constantly text him. I know I was so annoying. Like, literally so annoying. But I didn't care because I wanted him to like me. I didn't even care if he didn't answer. I would double text him, quadruple text him all the time. Like for part 2. Storytime part 2. I'm gonna try and hurry up my story times because I don't want there to be like 5 parts. It's kind of a long story, so I'm gonna try my best. So at this point, I've been texting him for like a month, and we had been like kind of on and off texting, but he still wasn't into me. But one Friday night, I was just at my house, and he was hanging with, I think, 2 of his other friends. So this one particular night, this boy is texting me a lot, and he's replying to me more than usual. And my little ignorant self did not think anything was wrong with this. I was just like, oh my gosh, he's probably talking to his friends about me. He probably thinks I'm so cool, like he probably likes me. This boy asks if I wanted to FaceTime. And I don't know if this was just me, but back in middle school, or I guess like going into my freshman year, FaceTime was a pretty big deal. Like if I were to FaceTime a guy that I liked, it kind of meant that they were feeling the same way about me, you know? So this boy calls me and all of his friends are there with him. And I'm ready to do some flirting, think we're gonna have a good conversation. Like for part 3. So I'm on FaceTime with this guy who I think I'm gonna marry. And everything is going great. It's kind of hard to like carry the conversation and find things to talk about, but it was fine. This boy is a really big movie fan, and he specifically loves Star Wars. And so at some point during the conversation, he was like, oh, have you seen any of the Star Wars, or do you like them? And I was like, yeah, like I love the Star Wars movies, like I've seen all of them. That was the truth, but I had seen them so long ago that I didn't really remember any of the details. One of his friends then asks, oh, so you're familiar with the character Galaxar? And me, not even knowing who that was, said, of course I love that character. For those of you who are confused, Galaxar is not a real character in any of the Star Wars movies. They went along with it. They were like, oh yeah, he's so great, he's in this and this and this. And I didn't suspect anything. They're getting ready to hang up the phone, and one of the guys goes, you know that's not a real character, right? Like for part 4. Part 4, and the last part. So I'm mortified. I hang up the phone, or I hang up FaceTime, and I just start crying my eyes out because I realized I had just been played. And this guy that I had liked for so long and so hard didn't even like me. He was making fun of me. Fast forward 2 whole years to my junior year. 2 whole years. This new kid comes to our school, and we become friends. Like, no, nothing romantic, just friends. And he starts becoming friends with, some of the guys in my grade. And one day, I was waiting for my mom to come pick me up from the school. Yes, I didn't drive yet. And he walks out of the front doors of the school because his mom was there to pick him up, and he literally says, "Bye, Galaxar." 2 whole years later, this boy is still telling people what happened. And I will never live it down. Whenever I see that boy in public, the one that I like, I know we're thinking of the same thing.
Yeah, I fucked up. Story time. So this customer called and asked for a bunch of pizzas. I was like, "Hey, sir, what's the special occasion?" And he said something under his breath that I didn't hear. So I was just like, "Ha ha ha, cool." That was my first mistake. So I made the pizzas. And then before I went to go deliver them, I wanted to do something nice because I'm a nice person. So I was like, you know what'd be great? I'm going to write congratulations on the box. I don't remember what the exact occasion was, but I'm sure he would appreciate that. That was my second mistake. While going to delivery, driving, listening to music. My GPS then said, "You have arrived at your destination." But I noticed something was off. It was a funeral home. I panicked and I didn't know what to do, so instead of calling a customer, I just walked through the front door. That was my third mistake. So I didn't want to interrupt that beautiful, beautiful service I'm sure that they were having, so I just stood around looking like a weirdo. Pizza? No. You ordered pizza, didn't you? No? You ordered the pizza, right? Nope, you're in the casket. Okay. After 5 awkward-ass minutes, customer came up to me and said, "He told you to come through the back door. It's for the construction workers outside."
So, since this is the worst one yet, not even real, I'm a clout chaser, the story time is never gonna happen, here it is. So here's part 1 of the story time, but before I tell the actual story, there are a few pieces of vital information that you guys need to know. One of which being, there was a time last year where I was just always super sad. Like, my parents would come into my room at any given point, no matter what time it was, no matter what I did that day, and I would just be crying, like sobbing so hard, and for no reason too. But it is also very important to know that I am not a morning person. If you wake me, they repainted this parking lot, that's so nice. If you wake me up at any point, like you wake me up before an alarm, you wake me up from a nap, I will snap at you, I will yell at you, and I will not remember it. Like, I don't know what happens when I first wake up, and it's just like not a pretty scene. So just keep that in mind when you listen to the rest of the story. So here's part 2 of this story time. So just to put it in like a time frame, this happened March 20th of 2019, so like a few months ago. So finally, to get on with the actual story time, what happened was my dad woke me up early. Like, he woke me up before my alarms. And he's like, "Cass, you need to get up." And I'm like, no. But like, I didn't have words because he had just woke me up. And I was just like, And this happened over and over and over. And I was like, I have time. Like, I don't need to get up yet. Like, my alarms have not gone off. Like, I know what I'm doing. And he started getting mean about it. Like, he came into my room and he was like, "If you don't get up in the next 5 minutes, we're calling the police." Now, looking back, it's like he's not going to call the police because his daughter doesn't want to get up early for school, right? But at the time, that was so scary. I started crying at that point, right? Okay. These videos are not as long as I thought. Stay tuned for part 3. Part 3 of this story time. So after saying that, I kind of knew that he wasn't going to like do anything, so I went back to sleep. But I set an alarm for 4 minutes later. That way, if he came in at 5, I would be up. But he comes into my room 3 minutes later, and he's like, "That's it. Get up, put on your socks and shoes. We're going to the hospital." And I'm like, huh? I'm like, "We're not going to the hospital. Like, we're not. Like, no." And I'm like crying at this point, like, why is he taking me to the hospital? And he's like, "Get up, like, we're going." So I put on Crocs, I stay in my pajamas, I just woke up, and like, I'm like, okay, whatever. And he comes into my room and I'm like, "I'm up, just bring me to school, just bring me to school." And he was like, "No, like, you didn't want to get up when I wanted you to get up, like, you're going to the hospital." I'm like, "Just bring me to school." But alas, he didn't. Stay tuned for part 4. There was some confusion about part 2. Some of y'all didn't see it, so I reposted it, but here's part 4, and I'm sorry that it's not in order. So my mom can sometimes be like a mediator in this type of situation, so I try to talk to her about like just letting me go to school, but it didn't work. So we go to the hospital, right? And when we get there, instead of just talking to the man behind the counter, my dad like leans over the counter and whispers in this guy's ear. And I'm like, why can't he just be normal? But they bring me back into a room. A doctor asked me a bunch of questions. I get moved into my own room. And this hospital didn't have like a psych ward, which sounds crazy. Like, I don't want to be in a psych ward, but you know. So I talked to like 4 different psychiatrists. They took blood to drug test me. It was this whole big deal. Like, they took like my pee to like for a pregnancy test. They drug tested me, like all this stuff. Part 5. Part 5 of this story time. So my mom had to stay in the front because I was only allowed one parent with me, so my dad was with me. But the stories that I was telling the doctors and the stories that he was telling the doctors were like different. He was saying things like she has debilitating depression, she can't function on her own, she was paralyzed this morning. And on the other hand, I'm here like I've just been having a rough patch. Like, he woke me up early, I just didn't want to get up, like I don't need to be here. And one of the psychiatrists told me that he wanted to put me in an inpatient facility for 7 to 10 days. Basically, if you don't know what that is, it's like a psych ward that you live in, right? And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't need it. Like, I can't do that. Like, no. My dad suggested that I stay there for the remainder of the school year. And I'm like, no. And long story short, they just end up putting me on like a bunch of meds, a bunch of drugs, like make sure I'm not going crazy because I wouldn't wake up.
Story time. One time I was on this road trip out of town and everything. Earlier that same road trip, I had Taco Bell. You probably already know what I'm going to say next, and yes, I had to poop. So I pull over into this plaza and everything, and it had this nice building, so I was like, hey, maybe they got a nice toilet that I could use. So I go inside, do my business, come back out. Here's where we encounter our first problem. I locked my damn keys in the car. I was like, damn it. Roadside assistant's probably going to take 20 minutes to get here. So I decided to go back inside. I walked back up to the lady at the front desk, and she was in scrubs, so I thought, hey, maybe she's smart, she could help me. I said, hey, ma'am, I locked my keys in the car. Do you have any clothes hangers or anything I could use? She looked up at me in disgust. The room went dead silent. I looked around and I saw about 12 people looking visibly upset. Grown men looking like they wanted to hurt me. I'm horrible in awkward situations, so I was like, you know what? It's fine. I got it taken care of. And I walked back out. Roadside assistants finally got there and I told him the story and he busted out laughing. I was confused, but then it became clear to me that I walked into an abortion clinic and asked if they had a coat hanger. I hate my damn self. I'm sorry.